Hello friends, welcome to Quick Flex Recap. Imagine a life where every day feels like a grayscale painting, the same repetitive strokes, the same familiar hum of the office printer, the same unremarkable walk to the subway. This is the world of Walter Mitty, a quiet, introverted photo editor at Life magazine, whose extraordinary imagination serves as both his refuge and his prison. Walter's life is orderly, safe, and meticulously predictable. Yet beneath the surface, it simmers with unspoken dreams, untapped courage, and a yearning for something more than the monotonous life he leads. He is, on the surface, invisible, blending into the background as the modern office drone, unnoticed by the world yet vivid in the vivid landscapes of his mind. And it's here, in the theater of his imagination, that Walter becomes a hero, embarking on daring adventures, leaping into fantastical scenarios, and flirting with danger and romance all without ever leaving his desk. But what happens when the line between fantasy and reality begins to blur? The story begins in the sleek, corporate corridors of Life magazine, which, though winding down in print, still pulses with the residual energy of its legendary past. Walter Mitty works in the negative assets department, a place where he handles photographs meticulously. Yet ironically, he's the one whose life lacks vividness. The company's future is uncertain, and the legendary photographer Sean O'Connell, whose work has defined the magazine, is preparing to send his final assignment before the transition to digital. This photograph is unlike any other. It is meant for the cover of the magazine's final print edition, an image that holds more than aesthetic value. It carries a story, a piece of Sean himself, a signature that will encapsulate an era. And then, disaster strikes. The negative number 25 is missing. This single missing photograph becomes the catalyst that ignites Walter's Dermont. It has the kind of plot device that could either end quietly in the filing cabinet of bureaucracy or transform a timid office worker into a seeker of the extraordinary. Walter's boss, the stern yet occasionally insightful Ted Hendricks, pressures him to locate the missing negative. But Walter is hamstrung by his own lack of real-world boldness, contrasting sharply with his vivid daydreams. These daydreams are cinematic in their own right, bursts of imagination where Walter rescues co-workers from absurd dangers, romantically woos his colleague Cheryl or performs heroic feats that defy physics and logic. Cheryl, the HR representative with an approachable warmth and quiet wit, becomes the object of Walter's affection, a mirror of the real world's promise, gently tethering his fantasies to reality. Yet, she seems as unreachable as the peaks of his imagined adventures. She's unaware of the intensity and vibrancy of Walter's internal life, a life that the world sees as quiet and ordinary. When Walter first receives the news of the missing negative, the situation feels mundane, yet tense. The office buzzes with concern and mild panic. But for Walter, the stakes are deeply personal. This is more than a lost photograph. It is the final test of his courage, the potential gateway to a life of purpose, risk, and authenticity. It is here that the narrative begins to hinge on a duality, the tension between Walter's internal heroism and his external hesitation, between what his mind can imagine and what his body can actually achieve. Each daydream is meticulously timed and framed, almost a trailer for the real-life journey that Walter has yet to embark on, foreshadowing the extraordinary adventure lurking just beyond the edges of his office walls. The intrigue intensifies when Walter learns that Sean O'Connell is somewhere on assignment, far beyond the confines of Manhattan. Sean, an elusive figure, communicates only through cryptic messages and postcards, challenging Walter indirectly. -25, Sean writes, is at a place you can't yet see. It's a tantalizing riddle, a spark that forces Walter to step beyond his carefully curated routines. And so, with little more than determination, curiosity, and an untested courage, he embarks on a journey that will push him across continents, across terrains, both mundane and wild, into situations that defy his former notions of what is possible. Walter's first steps are tentative booking flights, stepping onto unfamiliar streets, observing the unfamiliar rhythms of foreign cultures. His journey begins in Iceland, where landscapes are not merely backdrops but characters themselves. Geysers that erupt with primal force, snow-laden cliffs that tower like sentinels, and icy seas that demand respect and resilience. Each setting mirrors Walter's internal transformation, reflecting his growing courage and adaptability. He begins to see that life, unlike the orderly confines of his office, is messy, unpredictable, and breathtakingly beautiful. The narrative cleverly juxtaposes Walter's internal fantasies with these external challenges, making the viewer question where imagination ends and reality begins. But Walter is not simply wandering. He is pursuing a mission, a tangible goal, entwined with deep emotional stakes. Each obstacle, whether lost luggage, missed flights, or miscommunications, serves as both literal and metaphorical tests. He begins to discover latent skills, surprising reserves of courage, and a resourcefulness that his daydreaming self could only hint at. These moments are cinematic in the most suspenseful sense. Tense, visually stunning, and emotionally resonant, pulling viewers into Walter's world, forcing them to invest in both his success and his growth. As he tracks Sean across Icelandic villages and into the rugged wilderness, Walter begins to interact with a cast of minor but memorable characters, each adding depth, humor, or challenge to his quest. From a curious helicopter pilot who embodies risk-taking freedom to a skeptical yet kind taxi driver, these encounters expand Walter's understanding of the world and of himself. The film does not rush these interactions. They are carefully staged to illustrate that heroism is not merely action, but also empathy, observation, and adaptability. Each scene pushes Walter closer to the edge of his comfort zone, blurring the line between the quiet office worker and the adventurous spirit within. Throughout all of this, the romantic tension with Cheryl simmers quietly, a soft thread woven into the narrative fabric. Walter's courage abroad mirrors the emotional courage he must summon to connect with her. In subtle ways, the story foreshadows that his transformation is not only geographical or adventurous, but deeply personal and relational. The missing negative becomes more than a professional problem. It becomes a symbol of Walter's journey toward authenticity, presence, and engagement with the world around him. And so, from the grayscale safety of his office to the breathtaking unpredictability of distant landscapes, Walter Mitty's story begins to unfold. A cinematic meditation on courage, imagination, and the quiet power of stepping into the unknown. The stage is set, the pieces are in motion, and the audience is left suspended on the precipice of adventure, wondering what trials, triumphs, and revelations await him beyond the horizon. Walter Mitty's journey intensifies almost immediately as he leaves behind the familiar streets of New York City, stepping into a world where unpredictability reigns. His first destination is Greenland, a place as stark and forbidding as it is mesmerizing. From the moment he lands, the contrast between his office-bound existence and the real, untamed world is striking. Walter has no map, little money, and almost no plan, relying instead on intuition, persistence, and a growing confidence that he hadn't realized he possessed. His journey here is a sequence of escalating challenges, a missing helicopter, a harsh environment, and a series of near misses that tests not just his resolve but his very capacity to endure. Each obstacle pushes him further, forcing him to rely on creativity and courage rather than routine. Walter's pursuit of Sean O'Connell is as much about finding the man as it is about discovering himself. In Greenland, he faces his first major turning point. A helicopter is supposed to carry him closer to Sean's location, but delays, missed connections, and miscommunication put him in situations that are both comical and perilous. At one point, he must improvise a daring solo trek across icy terrain, braving the elements in a scene that combines breathtaking cinematography with palpable suspense. The cold, the isolation, and the unforgiving landscapes mirror Walter's internal state, illustrating the stark contrast between the safe life he left behind and the raw intensity of living fully in the moment. Here, imagination begins to intersect with reality. He's forced to act, to take risks, and to confront fears he previously only encountered in daydreams. Meanwhile, the narrative continues to weave in Walter's professional challenges. Life magazine is closing in on its transition to digital, and the missing negative grows more urgent with each passing day. His co-workers, particularly Ted Hendricks, press him for results, embodying the tension between bureaucratic expectations and personal growth. Ted's character, sharp, slightly antagonistic, represents the world Walter is breaking away from, the orderly, predictable, and often constraining reality that he has known all his life, contrasted against Sean O'Connell, the free-spirited, enigmatic photographer. The story creates a clear dichotomy between routine safety and inspired risk-taking, a thematic thread that drives Walter's journey forward. Walter's journey leads him to Iceland, where the landscapes take on mythic proportions. Here, the scale and beauty of the environment echo the enormity of his quest. In Abigatis, volcanic terrain, vast glaciers and coastal cliffs, each step symbolizing his personal growth. It is in these sequences that the film's visual storytelling shines. Aerial shots of Walter trekking across sweeping landscapes, juxtaposed with intimate close-ups, capturing his awe, fear, and determination. The Icelandic segments are punctuated by moments of introspection, where Walter reflects on what courage truly means. These contemplative beats are crucial, grounding the adventure in emotional reality while reinforcing the suspense of his journey. The turning point arrives when Walter finally receives a cryptic clue from Sean himself, a tip that sends him further afield, into even more challenging circumstances. He learns that Sean's next location is in the remote Himalayas, and reaching it will require not just physical stamina but an unwavering commitment to the unknown. Along the way, Walter experiences moments that challenge his perception of reality, forcing him to confront the limitations he has placed upon himself. For instance, he narrowly escapes a rogue storm while driving through mountainous terrain, and in another tense scene, he must navigate a partially frozen waterfall, each action sequence balancing suspense with cinematic spectacle. These sequences underscore a key theme. Real-life adventure is unpredictable and often terrifying, yet it is within that chaos that true courage and self-discovery emerge. Interwoven with these external challenges is Walter's ongoing emotional development. He reflects on his admiration for Cheryl, realizing that courage is not just about navigating wild landscapes, but also about expressing vulnerability and pursuing connection. Through video chats and messages, Cheryl remains a distant yet grounding presence, representing the life Walter could embrace if he integrates bravery into both action and emotion. The stakes of his quest become dual. He seeks the lost negative to honor his professional duties and Sean's legacy, but he also seeks personal fulfillment, a life that matches the vibrancy of his imagination. The narrative cleverly blends humor with tension, keeping viewers emotionally engaged. Walter's daydreams occasionally intrude upon reality, sometimes leading to awkward encounters, missed opportunities, or comical misunderstandings. These sequences, while lighthearted, serve as a constant reminder of his inner world of vivid, heroic self that he is only beginning to manifest outwardly. They create a rhythm in the story, alternating between intense adventure and whimsical fantasy, and maintaining audience engagement over long stretches of cinematic exposition. As Walter's journey continues, the film escalates the stakes further. He discovers that Sean's trail is more convoluted than expected. A small-town post office clerk, local villagers, and the occasional chance encounter provide fragments of information, each clue requiring improvisation, courage, and persistence. At one moment, Walter must climb a sheer cliff to catch a glimpse of a distant location. At another, he narrowly avoids a dangerous wildlife encounter. The suspense is continuous, each scenario layered with visual drama and emotional weight. These sequences serve not only as plot progression, but also as a deepening exploration of Walter's character arc from timid, imagination-bound office worker to a man fully inhabiting his own life. By the midpoint of his journey, Walter's changed profoundly, yet the film keeps viewers on edge by introducing subtle uncertainties. What if he fails? What if the negative is lost forever? These narrative questions maintain tension while reinforcing the stakes of Walter's quest. Sean O'Connell remains an enigmatic figure, appearing intermittently via cryptic messages or postcards, guiding Walter indirectly but never fully intervening. This narrative device preserves suspense while highlighting the film's thematic core. The journey itself, with all its risks, failures, and discoveries, is the transformative force. Walter's encounters with the world also reveal unexpected kindness and shared humanity. From helping strangers to being helped by them, these sequences underscore a subtle moral undertone. Courage is not only about personal achievement, but also about engagement with the world and with others. In Greenland and Iceland, Walter sees lives lived boldly, freely, and vulnerably, challenging his assumptions and inspiring him to expand his understanding of possibility. By navigating these environments, he discovers both the practical and symbolic elements of heroism improvisation, resilience, empathy, and self-trust. Through all of these challenges, Walter's ultimate goal retrieving. Negative number 25 is always in view, a concrete anchor amid the uncertainty. The narrative gradually builds to the revelation that Sean's photograph is more than a picture. It is a metaphor for embracing life fully, capturing the extraordinary in everyday existence. Walter's pursuit mirrors his personal awakening. The act of chasing the negative compels him to leave behind hesitation, embrace risk, and pursue experiences that will make his life vivid and meaningful. Walter Mitty's journey now reaches the point where the stakes are no longer just adventurous but existential. Having navigated Greenland's icy wastelands and Iceland's volcanic majesty, he arrives at the remote Himalayas, where the environment itself seems to challenge the very limits of human endurance. Each step is physically demanding, psychologically taxing, and dramatically suspenseful, heightening tension for the audience. Walter's meticulous planning has failed to account for the raw unpredictability of nature. Snowstorms, treacherous paths, and dizzying cliffs become literal and metaphorical obstacles, forcing him to rely entirely on his inner courage, resourcefulness, and adaptability. The cinematography here amplifies both danger and beauty. Sweeping aerial shots juxtapose Walter's small, fragile figure against towering peaks, reinforcing the film's theme that true heroism emerges in the face of overwhelming odds. During this leg of the journey, Walter's internal conflict becomes increasingly pronounced. He is no longer just pursuing Sean O'Connell or a missing photograph. He is confronting his own fears, insecurities, and the limitations he once imposed on himself. Every physical challenge, crossing a rickety bridge over a deep chasm, slipping on ice, navigating unfamiliar terrain, is intertwined with his internal struggle. Each success, no matter how small, chips away at the timid, cautious man who once feared leaving his office. The narrative tension is amplified by the audience's awareness that Walter has no safety net. Failure here is not only literal, but symbolic, representing a return to a life of mediocrity and unfulfilled potential. A critical confrontation occurs when Walter finally reaches the edge of Sean's trail. Sean remains elusive, a figure defined more by legend and principle than by physical presence. Yet, through cryptic clues and brief interactions, Sean challenges Walter to see beyond the literal quest for a photograph. Negative number 25 is revealed to be not only a visual masterpiece, but also a statement about presence, courage, and the act of truly living. Walter realizes that the real quest is internal, discovering the audacity to engage fully with the world, to transform imagination into action. This realization reframes the narrative. The missing negative was never just a professional responsibility. It was the vehicle for Walter's metamorphosis, from a passive observer into an active participant in life. Tension escalates further through a sequence of near disaster while attempting to access the precise location of the photograph. Walter faces extreme conditions, avalanches, narrow cliffside paths, and unpredictable weather that tests both his physical endurance and mental acuity. In one gripping scene, he must leap across a widening gap between two rock faces, relying on sheer instinct and courage. These moments are intercut with flashes of his office life, emphasizing the contrast between his former passivity and his current heroism. Each action sequence is designed to keep viewers on the edge of their seats, while reinforcing the emotional weight of Walter's transformation. Alongside physical challenges, Walter confronts interpersonal and emotional dilemmas. He communicates with Cheryl intermittently, their exchanges highlighting the parallel between his external adventure and his internal courage. Cheryl represents a tether to the life Walter is forging for himself, a life that blends risk, love, and authenticity. By embracing vulnerability in these interactions, Walter demonstrates that heroism is not merely action-oriented. It is also relational. His emotional bravery becomes inseparable from his physical daring, heightening the audience's investment in both his romantic and personal growth arcs. A pivotal escalation occurs when Walter, against all odds, finally reaches the small village where Sean is rumored to be. The confrontation here is subtle yet profound. Sean does not directly hand Walter the photograph. Instead, he presents challenges that require intuition, observation, and moral discernment. Walter must decipher clues in a way that validates both his ingenuity and his courage, demonstrating that the journey has prepared him not only physically, but psychologically for the final act. It is in this careful, suspenseful unraveling that the movie emphasizes a mature form of heroism, persistence, attention to detail, and the ability to trust one's instincts. As the climax approaches, Walter's trials intensify with an emotional reckoning. He experiences moments of doubt, exhaustion, and isolation, questioning whether he is capable of completing this journey. These sequences are interlaced with flashbacks to his office daydreams, reinforcing how far he has come from the timid dreamer who imagined heroics without consequence. The narrative cleverly juxtaposes fantasy and reality. Walter's internalized visions of heroism merge with tangible, real-world action, demonstrating the power of imagination when channeled into courage. Each successful step forward underscores his transformation, making the audience feel the gravity and satisfaction of his evil. Finally, Walter uncovers the location of negative number 25, a cliffside vista that embodies the spirit of adventure, courage, and the extraordinary in the ordinary. The photograph itself is minimalistic, a lone figure standing at the edge of a cliff, but its significance is monumental. It encapsulates Sean's philosophy. The most profound experiences are lived, not just observed or imagined. This revelation is a thematic crescendo, resolving both the external quest for the photograph and the internal journey of self-actualization. Walter's triumph is quiet yet deeply satisfying, a cinematic testament to the narrative that courage and transformation are the true prizes. The climax is further heightened by subtle tension surrounding his return to New York. And Cheryl, will he carry the lessons of adventure back into his everyday life? Will he be able to integrate his newfound courage with personal relationships, including the long-standing affection he harbored for Cheryl? These questions keep the audience emotionally invested, while bridging the high-stakes adventure with personal, relatable stakes. Walter's final journey back is framed not as a descent but as a consolidation of growth, suggesting that true heroism is about synthesis, the ability to bring courage, curiosity, and emotional intelligence back into ordinary life. By the end of Part 3, the story has built a multi-layered climax, suspenseful physical challenges, emotionally charged interpersonal development, and thematic resolution regarding imagination, courage, and authenticity. Walter Mitty has emerged as a fully realized protagonist, whose external journey mirrors a profound internal transformation. Every scene of peril, wonder, and self-discovery has brought him closer to embracing life as it is lived, fully and without reservation, leaving viewers primed for a conclusion that ties together adventure, personal growth, and emotional fulfillment. With the elusive negative, number 25, finally in his possession, Walter Mitty's journey reaches its emotional and cinematic apex. But the story does not end with the photograph alone. The return to New York becomes an equally important act, a reconciliation between the extraordinary world he has explored and the life he left behind. Each step back through familiar streets and office corridors carries the weight of transformation. Walter is no longer the timid, daydreaming photo editor he once was. He has navigated perilous landscapes, deciphered cryptic clues, and confronted both his fears and his desires. These experiences have forged a new identity, one defined by courage, presence, and the willingness to embrace life's unpredictability. As he reintegrates into the office environment, Walter observes his colleagues with a fresh perspective. Tasks that once seemed mundane now resonate with potential and significance. The corporate world, once a gray cage of repetition, now becomes a stage for subtle heroism, helping others, solving problems creatively, and embodying the quiet confidence that comes from having ventured beyond the familiar. His interactions with Ted Hendricks take on new meaning. Ted's insistence on efficiency and control contrasts sharply with Walter's growth, but rather than engendering conflict, it now underscores the broader lesson of the film. Courage and fulfillment are found not in rigid conformity but in the willingness to act boldly within and beyond ordinary circumstances. Perhaps the most emotionally satisfying resolution comes with Cheryl. Walter's journey has taught him that true courage encompasses vulnerability, honesty, and connection. In a climactic but understated scene, he approaches Cheryl, sharing glimpses of his transformation and subtly bridging the gap between imagination and reality. Cheryl, who has long represented a quiet anchor and potential for intimacy, responds with warmth and acknowledgement, providing closure to the romantic thread that has simmered throughout the narrative. The audience witnesses the realization that personal growth is not just about heroic deeds and exotic landscapes. It is also about nurturing meaningful relationships and embracing emotional risk. Walter's discovery of negative number 25 culminates in the magazine's final print edition, a fitting metaphorical and literal resolution. The photograph, minimalist yet profoundly symbolic, conveys the story's central theme. The extraordinary exists in moments of courage, presence, and engagement with life, even amid ordinary settings. It is a visual representation of Walter's journey, capturing the culmination of risk, exploration, and self-actualization. The magazine's audience sees the result of Walter's adventure, but more importantly, Walter himself recognizes the personal significance of what he has accomplished. This dual resolution, both external and internal, ensures that the narrative closes with satisfaction on multiple levels. The final sequences of the film are cinematic in both spectacle and subtlety. Sweeping shots of New York's skyline blend with intimate moments of reflection, capturing the integration of adventure into daily life. Walter walks with a newfound confidence, pauses to notice the beauty in ordinary occurrences, and engages with colleagues and friends with an authenticity that was previously absent. The cinematography reinforces the thematic closure. Expansive landscapes of his journey now echo within familiar city streets, symbolizing the enduring impact of courage, curiosity, and imaginative engagement. As the story concludes, the narrative leaves viewers with a profound reflection. Life is at its richest when imagination fuels action, and when the courage to step into the unknown is balanced with emotional openness. Walter Mitty's adventure is a testament to the transformative power of embracing risk, curiosity, and self-belief. Ordinary lives can contain extraordinary potential if one dares to pursue it, and the film's resolution celebrates this principle without didacticism, allowing audiences to internalize the lesson organically through Walter's journey. And so, as Walter Mitty stands, gazing at the city that once seemed constricting and dull, viewers are reminded that adventure is not only in distant landscapes, but also in the conscious engagement with everyday life. His story, brought to vivid life through breathtaking cinematography, suspenseful challenges, and emotionally resonant arcs, leaves a lasting impression. Courage is both action and mindset, and true heroism often begins with a single step into the unknown. This cinematic journey of imagination, courage, and transformation has been brought to you by Quick Flex Recap. If you enjoyed this full movie breakdown of the secret life of Walter Mitty, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more deep dive share it with fellow movie lovers, and comment below with your favorite Walter Mitty moment or how you might face your own impossible adventure. Your engagement helps us bring more suspenseful, dramatic, and spoiler-packed recaps directly to you.